Welcome to this presentation on proFes360, an online project health assessment system developed by PM Power Consulting. My name is Shiv, and over the next 30 minutes or so, I'll be providing an overview of proFes360, the underlying thinking, approach, and concepts. This is the era of Industry 4.0. Smart factories are here for real, leveraging cyber physical systems, cognitive computing, and Internet of Things. Like in manufacturing, disruptive influences are at play across the board in almost all domains of human endeavor. And of course, software continues to play a central role in enabling people and organizations to cope with and even thrive in the disruptive VUCA world. Software projects of today are vastly different from those even just a few years ago. Software systems have to deal with vast amounts of data, make sense of it, predict the future, and enable real-time decisions, much more than ever before. Software development cycles can rarely afford the distinctive stages of development of yesteryears and the management control structures that went with them. So are the project management practices evolving in sync with the nature of projects today? Or are they still at 2.0? The projects of today are more like living organisms that need to constantly adapt to circumstances as needs evolve rapidly and new technologies emerge, even as the project is in execution. We at PM Power believe that there's a pressing need for software project management in the digital era to be more holistic, assessing the true health of the project. Health being the capability of the project to consistently deliver outcomes. Project health is what proFes360 is all about. To sense the health of projects, PM Power has developed a framework based on 6 vital signs as shown in the diagram. The 6 vital signs are expanded into a set of manifestations. Manifestations are aspects of the project that one can observe or sense. Let us take code review as an example. An observer can sense the motivation level of the reviewers and the author, observe their collective behavior as a team, and see how robust the review process is. Right kind of manifestations would point to good health. Our approach to determining project health is based on sensing these manifestations to arrive at the current state of health, forecasts, and areas of improvement. So manifestations are what we need to sense. The question is, who should sense them? The project stakeholders, of course. The typical stakeholders are the consumers of the product or the solution being developed by the project, the producers comprising the project team developing it, the investors who represent the performing organization which is providing the people and other resources. Lastly, the society at large. Although the society is relatively a more distant stakeholder, their sensing is also quite important in aspects such as safety, environment, taxpayer funding for the project, and so on. In the context of proFes360, we will consider only the consumer, producer, and the investor stakeholder categories. Now we know what to sense in a project and who should sense. Let's ask ourselves what we want to find out. We want to find out the current state of the 7 outcomes listed and the forecast on achieving them. Note that outcomes are no longer about schedule, cost, quality, and scope alone, but also about customer experience, team satisfaction, and expectations of the delivery organization. These are often as critical as the more traditional outcomes of schedule, cost, quality, and scope for the project to be considered successful. In the previous slide, we understood the what, who, and whys of our approach for sensing project health. We will now look at how we go about collecting what stakeholders sense about the manifestations in the project. As you can see, the manifestations from the vital sign framework have been cast into a set of questions that stakeholders can answer. These questions, in turn, have a many-to-many relationship with project practices such as planning, performing, adapting, enabling, etc. We will see some examples that illustrate this relationship in the next slide. In this example, let's look at the manifestation question on whether delivery management is effective in removing impediments to the project team on a sustained basis. This question maps to the enabling practices, which in turn have a direct bearing on whether the team can achieve the planned schedule goal. Another example is a question on whether the customer and the team have a mechanism to address changes in the project and demonstrate flexibility in doing so. This is a question that would map to multiple practices under planning, performing, adapting, customer connect, and goal-focused team. Stakeholder responses to this question would have a bearing on virtually all the project outcomes: schedule, cost, scope, customer experience, team satisfaction, and management expectation. So the manifestation questions map to practice areas, and the health of the practice areas determine the impact on the 7 outcomes that we have seen before. Hope it is clear. Another key concept in proFes360 is the vantage point. We talked about the categories of stakeholders earlier: consumer, producer, and investor, who are the key players in the project. Consumer may be represented by one or more stakeholders: the economic buyer of the product or the solution, the end user, and so on. There are usually 2 types of stakeholders in the producer category, namely the project in charge and the project team members. The project in charge is a generic term that we chose to use. It may map to a project manager title in many organizations, but could also be the delivery manager in some other organizations. Project in charge is a role. The team directly reports to the person who is performing this role, and she in turn reports to the delivery management representing the investor stakeholder. proFes360 considers these 4 sets of stakeholders: customer, project in charge, project team, and delivery management, to gather responses to the manifestation questionnaire for a 360-degree view of the project. Each one of the stakeholders represent a vantage point, VP1 to VP4, shown in the slide. They sense where the project stands today from their respective vantage points. proFes360, among other things, also checks if there are significant gaps or disconnects among the 4 sets of stakeholders and highlights them. These could be causes for concern. For example, the team and the project in charge may give high scores for questions relating to delivered quality. However, the customer's score may be much lower. In such cases, the cause for the disconnect needs to be investigated further for improvement actions. Having covered the proFes360 approach and concepts for project health assessment, we now look at sample reports from the tool. The diagram presents the 7 outcomes that we saw before as 2 tables: one on goals, schedule, cost, quality, and scope, and the other on stakeholder outcomes: customer experience, team satisfaction, and management expectation. So how do you read the report? Let us take a look at the quality goal row in the diagram. Note that we have not provided a single final score for the quality goal. That is deliberate. For greater granularity and easier identification of actionables, we have shown the scores for each of the practices for the quality goal. The reason is that even if some practices for an outcome are in the green zone, As long as you have one or more other practices in red or deep amber, there is cause for concern and the goal is at risk. The same reasoning applies for all the 7 outcomes. For the quality goal, the planning practices are good, but the team's performing practices are not quite up to the mark. And the adapting practices are very much in the red. Maybe it indicates that the customer is not satisfied with the team's adaptation. Perhaps he is imposing more stringent quality requirements and the team may be struggling to cope. On the brighter side, the enabling practices for the scope, cost, and quality goals seem to be in pretty good shape. That may mean that there is good support within the team. Say, all the team members swarming to address the new quality requirements. Likewise, in the case of external enablers, the green status may indicate that assistance in the form of outside expert help, performance testing tools, etc. are being provided by the management for the team to address the new quality requirements. Similarly, in the case of customer experience, it seems that the customer is pretty satisfied with the team and continuous improvements being made, but not very happy in other areas like customer connect and execution excellence. In summary, the 2 tables indicate practice areas to focus on for each of the 7 outcomes for further investigation and possible improvement actions. This is further enabled by proFes360's detailed forecasts, which we will cover next. This is the report which shows the top forecasts arrived at by the proFes360 algorithm. The outcomes which have the lowest scores along with the forecasts are shown first, as these are the ones which need immediate attention. The first row is the quality outcome with the lowest score of 4.1. This is the one which we had explained in the previous slide. You can see the forecast arrived at by proFes360 for this outcome. Based on the analysis of responses to the questionnaire, the tool is inferring that the customer perception of delivered quality is indeed a major problem. The tool is also qualifying the inference with the statement that the team is not sensing the customer perception of quality often enough and taking corrective action. Note that there is a confidence level of 61% associated with this forecast. More on that later. In the next slide, we will elaborate further on the components that make up a proFes360 forecast. We will now cover the components of the proFes360 forecast using an example. This is a forecast regarding the schedule outcome and the related performing practice area. The basic inference here is that adaptation to project and release events is adequate to meet the schedule goal, the score indicating a green status. The next component is called the qualifier. In this case, the qualifier is a statement that there is an opportunity to improve on timely addressing of uncertainties and risks. Now you may ask, how did this qualifier come about when the overall score is high at 8.8 and the status indicator is green? The reason is that proFes360 has detected a significant gap between responses to questions related to this forecast. Questions on how well risks in the project are being addressed in a timely fashion. Hence, proFes360 is calling out this gap as a qualifier. Qualifiers typically indicate areas of improvement, sometimes even when the status is green, as in this example. Here, proFes360 has also detected a disconnect between the project in charge and the team members on this forecast. Maybe the team members feel that they are adapting very well to changes, while the project in charge thinks that this needs improvement. This is the third component of the forecast called a disconnect. Lastly, there is a confidence level associated with the forecast. 89% in this case, which is pretty high. We will explain how this is computed by the tool in the next slide. In summary, the forecast comprises an inference, qualifiers if there are any, disconnects between vantage points if there are any, and an overall confidence level. In the previous slide, we saw that forecasts from proFes360 are associated with a confidence level. Here is how it is computed by the tool. There are three factors which contribute to the overall confidence level. Firstly, the number of people who actually responded to the questionnaire versus the number of people who are expected to respond. The number of planned respondents is defined while setting up the project for the health assessment. The second factor has to do with how people responded to the questionnaire. All questions are mandatory for all respondents. However, people have the option to respond with cannot say for questions. For example, a team member who is largely performing a tester role may respond with cannot say for a question on the engineering capability of the team. What this means is that she does not have the information to make a judgment and definitively answer the question. While that may be a valid response, it brings down the confidence level of her responses by a notch. The tool does expect all respondents to have a perspective or a sense to be able to answer all questions. So in general, the larger the number of cannot say responses from people, lower the confidence level. The third factor is the inherent confidence level of the underlying model of proFes360. At this stage, it is set to 90% for all forecasts. So the overall confidence level of a forecast is the product of the above three factors. In this slide, we cover another report which comes out of proFes360, the high-level view of project health as of date. The x-axis is the confidence level and the y-axis the scores. The data points are the project forecasts. The circled data points shown on the left-hand side illustrate a situation wherein the project seems to be in good shape, but the overall confidence level is just about 25 to 30%. It may be because not as many identified stakeholders have actually taken the questionnaire, or it could be due to the fact that many people were unsure and answered cannot say for many questions. The circle of data points on the right-hand side indicate a better situation. No doubt, the scores have come down a bit, but the confidence level is much higher, almost 85%, and the forecasts are all more closely clustered. We will next see how the proFes360 reports can be taken forward for improvement actions in the project. We have now understood the approach of proFes360 to ascertain project health, the vantage points, and the forecasts. The question now is how to take the forecasts forward. The first thing to do is to ensure that the entire team is involved in this exercise. They need to look at the reports, understand the overall health, and the top forecasts which need attention, including qualifiers and disconnects. The team and delivery leadership then need to dive deeper and identify the specific actions that need to be taken to improve. As an example, maybe the customer experience outcome is the major concern arising from the health assessment. This may be due to, say, the team's chronic inability to meet the committed stories in sprints, which in turn could point to the need for better story refinement sessions, better engineering methods, and so on. Once the improvement actions are implemented, another snapshot of the project health can be taken up using proFes360, which would indicate whether the targeted improvements have been realized or not. In planning and implementing improvement actions, PM Power consultants and the authors of proFes360 are available for assistance to the team. You can reach them via proFes360@pmpowerconsulting.com. Hope it's all clear. This is just an overview of using proFes360. More details and assistance from PM Power are available once you sign up for a free trial at our website pmpowerconsulting.com. Using proFes360 is quite straightforward. There is some preparation required, but not a whole lot. The first step is the person initiating the project health assessment to understand the tool through this presentation and in consultation with PM Power consultants. We call this person the assessment administrator. It could be anyone in the project team, usually the project in charge or the delivery head. The assessment administrator then briefs the team on the exercise and addresses any queries or concerns they may have. The key point for the assessment administrator is to emphasize for all respondents that their individual scores in the questionnaire are fully confidential. All proFes360 reports would show only aggregated data, never individual scores. This is vital to enable respondents to answer the questionnaire to the best of their knowledge and judgment and without any apprehension about how their scores would be used. After the preparation, the next step is for the assessment administrator to set up the project for the actual assessment. This is quite simple and seeks to gather basic information about the nature of the project, types of stakeholders, and number of respondents. It should not take more than 15 minutes or so to complete. The questionnaire itself is compact and takes around 15 minutes per participant. Once the time window closes for the respondents to complete the questionnaire, proFes360 processes the data and delivers the reports the following day. Subsequent to report generation, the team needs to review the reports and initiate appropriate improvement actions, as we covered in the earlier slide. Here is the list of key benefits of proFes360. Please take a look. We believe the key benefit arises from an integrated 360-degree view of all that stakeholders sense about the project at a given point in time. This enables collective focus on what needs to be done to improve project health and the probability of achieving project outcomes. proFes360 augments other project reporting and forecasting systems that may already be in place. proFes360 is not a substitute for them, but brings more insight. proFes360 is lightweight and easy to use and can be repeated as often as desired during the course of the project. Well, that's it. If you wish to try out proFes360, visit our website pmpowerconsulting.com. proFes360 is available to you for free for now. If you have queries or need assistance, reach us via proFes360 at pmpowerconsulting.com. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.